smarts and my...
He told me enough.
No, I...
Here's Chuck.
I can't. You know, I'll never understood why some now apparently cheap rip-offs of better animated movies first one time actually got put in theaters. I'll never know that. And I'll never know how somehow they make $100 million and get a sequel. And apparently a live show back in like the 2010s, like nearly 10 years ago. But somehow this one does. That being said, guys, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with the epic rant. This epic rant is going to be for an animated film from 2014, like 10 years ago. This one kicked off animation for 2014. That's not shocking, because it's a January film. And back in the 2010s, badly animated January films were a thing. Like, yeah. And most of them were from the Weinstein Company or Lionsgate. Like, man, you had your Escape from Planet Earths. You had your Norm of the Norths. You had, you had Strange Magics, and that was from Touchstone Pictures. And get this, the saddest thing is, Strange Magic was literally directed by George Lucas. Yeah, great. Have a good director actually direct a shitty animated film. And now suddenly, though, in 2014, you had one that ripped off a Dreamworks movie, stole from a Dreamworks movie, actually, just took out everything good about it, and just made a shitty, mean-spirited attempt with an asshole protagonist. That is going to be 2014's The Nut Job, directed by Peter something. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck about his last name? I can't even pronounce his last name, and I don't care. So, the plot of this movie is, well, you're in a city park, our lead character is this asshole squirrel named Surly, who eventually is pretty much steals food from animals, doesn't share with them, or he tries to get nuts, doesn't share with any of his fellow animals, and is clearly hated for that for good reasons, for that reason alone. This time he goes too far with his latest caper, and they finally had enough, and they finally kick his ass out. So Surly and this one friend he has that he treats like shit have nightmare on the streets, but then they discover a nut store, and now he's forced to arrange a deal, like with no other options, like once one of the park now has to arrange to get their food back to help in this asshole squirrel's heist. Although this asshole squirrel clearly wants to betray every minute of it. And there's like more going on with the nut store, we find out, because apparently it's a hideout for bank robbers. And apparently one park animal has its own agenda to ensure power. And then in the mayhem, like apparently the asshole squirrel finds himself challenged in ways he never expects and discovers the real price of treasure in his own adventure. Yeah, like how is this like made? Well, apparently this was originated from a 2005 animated short film called Surly Squirrel. Then, of course, a second short film called Nuts and Robbers got released as a teaser for this. Pretty much that was the whole thing. It was originated from a short film that probably seems fucking better than this. Yeah, from a PG-13 short film. Then in January 2011... a screenplay was announced by Lauren Cameron, and Peter, whatever the fuck, would direct it. Then November 2012, some cast members like Catherine Heigl-Warnett and even somehow Brendan Fraser. Somehow they must have tricked Brendan Fraser into doing this. They joined the cast, and somehow they must have also tricked Liam Neeson into doing this film. Then in December 2013, it was announced that PSY would even be cameoing, and because it's not a shock, because of how the film fucking ends, yeah, let's have the animals do a shitty dance to that fucking Gangnam Style song. Fuck Gangnam Style. Fuck that song. Yeah. And then the film's art was like done in Ontario. Featured in an Ontario exhibit. So yeah, anyway, like this film released in like January to obviously negative reviews because like there was always crappy animated films releasing in January in the 2010s. So that's not a shock. Like this looked like shit to begin with. But somehow, I don't know how this made money, but it made like $120 million on a $30 million budget, and somehow they thought that was worthy enough for a sequel. That released in the summer of all fucking times of 2017. That sequel somehow released in the summer. Now it's from a reaction like, for the children of the 2010s era and this era, I feel bad for them because they have to grow up with shite like this, or shite like the Emoji Movie, shite like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, a lot of things. Like, I'll never understood how the hell this made $120 million or got a sequel for no reason. Because you want to know why? Like, this is literally a shitty, cheap ripoff of this movie. Literally. Like, there's even people that even say it's a shitty ripoff of this actually good written movie. Except the thing is, unlike the good stuff of this movie and the good voice acting, this one has no good qualities, shitty characters, and cringy pop culture references. Like, even this barely had any pop culture references. Yeah, and this had better voice acting. Right here, this film, like, most of the time, this movie just feels like, and the title of this movie, The Nut Job. Oh, what? As in a blowjob? So, that's what? Yeah, The Nut Job sounds like a wrong title for this. Yeah, so it's basically, like, the dick job. Yeah, literally like the blow job, basically. It's basically a nut job. It's a dick job or a blow job. All this movie does is feel like this crappy 10-minute Saturday morning cartoon. Where's the character development? Nowhere. And when they try it, it's all rushed and shallow. Like, and some moments are just crammed. They try to force too much impressions in a short moment. And like one-to-one animation from script and makes this list of 40 things to include 50 seconds. And it doesn't work that way. Like, all this was everything amiss about most of the world back then into a grotesque, insufferable mess. The pacing even shows a lack of energy essential to this kind of film, and it leaves the audience like expecting some kind of climax that the film never manages to deliver. It's literally encumbered with purposeless characters, unexplained plot events. Like, it's like certainly like the special example of that goes to one of the robbers has this bad earsight to a dog whistle. Apparently somehow that's never explained. Like, and opposed to film even has a completely random scene where all the characters dance to fucking Gangnam Style for some weird reason, despite the fact that Gangnam Style doesn't have anything to do with the plot of the film. And if it was Gangnam Style, shouldn't have this released in 2012, not 24 fucking teen? When Gangnam Style was now old and nobody gave a shit about that song anymore? Like, holy shit. Even I hate that fucking song. Fuck Gangnam Style. A gimmicky, overdone dancing. Yeah, overdone dancing in the credits. By an ugly-ass looking PSY. For no reason. Just to get the Gangnam Style crowd in. If there was any left. Like, and even though this is a kid's film, how would kids enjoy this? Like, it's like this wasn't even meant to be a family film. But somehow they must have decided last minute, you know what, let's make it a family film. Like, if this was a PG-13 movie, it'd be slightly better. Because this feels more like a PG-13 film. Yeah, like, This film feels like it's dragging at the bottom of the barrel, makes something that's barely worth watching. Like the humor, like this feels like they just hired people to have no concept what comedy is, have never been around children lives and said, hey, write something that we think a 10-year-old would laugh at. And all they could think of is fart jokes. There's plenty of fucking that in this movie. Plenty of that. Yeah, and they even do fart jokes to fucking death. They don't even bother with any actually funny jokes at all. At all. Like anything actually funny. Except fart and burp. Like, I'm pretty sure kids are smarter than this. Than what this film throws at any of them. And mislabels as jokes. And the voice acting, while the voice acting ain't bad, the casting just doesn't fit most of the characters. You have Katherine Heigl in this film, who I'm not a fan of, as this female squirrel character who just sounds bored. You have Liam Neeson playing the villain of this film, what the movie wants us to think is the villain, even though the protagonist is more of a villain himself. Just feels like he's thrown in. Like, and I can bet you, because like both him and Surly's voice actor were also in the Lego movie that came out the month after this and was actually a good movie, unlike this. I can bet you they must have got lied saying, this dialogue is gonna be, we're gonna be recording the Lego movie dialogue in this studio for both of you guys. So they probably lied saying it was the Lego movie so they could come do this. I wouldn't be surprised if they must have got tricked into thinking the dialogue they'd be recording was going to be for their characters in the Lego film. If that was their character's dialogue, oh fuck. I'm glad that was not their character's dialogue in that film. So yeah, like, and get this, guys. The villain's a raccoon, and guess what, guys? His name's Raccoon. No, that's his fucking name. Raccoon. They can't even think of a good name for him. Just Raccoon, because he's a raccoon. Like, Nutjob's just deplorable. Exploits child market for financial gains. Doesn't even try to be a decent film. Nobody would laugh. It has humor nobody would laugh at. Nothing even funny at all. The plot stumbles with no sense or clear thought. Just a rough, boring mess. And mean-spirited as shit film. That lacks any charm. It's like instead of trying to be a good animated film. Like, how did they even start the film? Like, this is another thing why Gangnam Style should not be in this, because this is set in the 1950s, and yet why are we referencing 2010 stuff in this? Yeah, we meet our animals. They're led by Raccoon. They're storing food for winter in this tree, but apparently there's a food shortage going on in the tree. And one of these animals is our so-called protagonist, who does not even act like a good protagonist, is literally named Surly, who is known for stealing shit from other animals, and is already an asshole the minute you meet this guy. When you meet this guy, he kicks a pigeon off the power line, tries to break into a pigeon's nest to eat its eggs, looking for its eggs to steal and eat. And of course, he plans to rob a nut cart and steal the nuts for himself, not share any of it. And he has his friend, and the one friend he has, you want to know how he treats him? Like fucking crap. Literally, most of the time, he pushes him out of the way, yells at his ass all the time, and despite this, this rat guy, this rat name is literally Buddy, and yet somehow, I don't know how Buddy is still loyal to this guy throughout the movie, considering the fact this guy's not even nice to him at all. This guy should not even be friends with him, and he's one of the few redeemable characters because he's not a mean-spirited asshole like almost everyone else, and at least he's quiet the movie and mute, and doesn't talk. Yeah. And guess what, guys? Of course, this protagonist is an outcast because he steals from everybody. So, you can actually side with the animals. You can see why the animals don't like this guy. Is it really a shock? Because this guy doesn't treat anybody with respect. Yeah. So, Surly's attempt to rob a peanut cart goes haywire when it gets impeded by raccoon helpers. There are two other squirrels, our so-called female lead, Andy, and the park hero who's Brendan Fraser's character, Grayson, who I'll get to in a bit. Their heroic antics prove to be really incompetent, and Andy unsuccessfully because apparently Andy's the somehow like apparently like acts like a throughout the movie a somewhat of a simp to Surly for some weird reason, just some complete simp. Keeps trying to defend him all the time for no reason. Tries to talk him to be more selfless, but then Surly tries to get a bag of nuts while the owner gets distracted by a Girl Scout and a police officer. Because to be fair, the cart guy pretty much assaulted the Girl Scout with nuts and shoved them in her mouth. So of course this guy's gonna get in trouble. Then the heist gets literally invaded by this pet pug, and when they try to fend off the pug by having her bite the pipe, it literally sends the tank flying, somehow flying for some weird reason. Why is the tank flying? I don't know. Apparently for some weird reason it somehow launches like a rocket. So then Surly escapes with the cart, Andy manages to get to the park, then Surly threatens their two other squirrels with a torch, doesn't want to share the food because of course he's a piece of crap. But then he causes it to rocket across the park, but it clearly does not give a fuck because he just escapes with the nuts and laughs sadistically and jumps away. And the animals do get off safely. The cart gets sent to the tree and explodes. And literally, like, even though like it destroys the food supply, but the nuts are turning to popcorn. Like, wouldn't the animals already have food? The animals could just eat the popcorn. Really. Honestly, like, yeah, the nuts are not nuts now. They're turned to popcorn, but I'm pretty sure animals will eat anything that falls on the ground. I would know this because sometimes if popcorn falls on the ground, my dog will eat the crumbs. It falls on the ground, so just eat the fucking popcorn. Go find another tree and eat the fucking popcorn with you. Like, holy crap. Maybe you're not doomed out. Maybe you're not so doomed after all. Maybe the nuts will taste better. They probably taste much better now. So Surly then gets exposed, and Raccoon banishes him, and the squirrel now has to live in the city. Buddy wants to go with Surly, but he insists Buddy leave him, even though this and acts like it's his, because says it's his own punishment. Because it is really your fucking fault this happened. Like when you get this, guys, when he sees the tree burning, he fucking laughs. He doesn't even look like he's even sorry for his little mistake. He fucking laughs that they're going to starve to death. Yeah. This is great. Like, I already want this character to fucking die. More. But then after getting chased by street rats, Surly and Buddy find a nut store, and they try to rob it to feed themselves. They enter the store, and we find out it's a criminal hideout. It was used by that cart owner we saw earlier, and two other people, and their mob boss King, who's literally voiced by Stephen Lane, went from voicing the only likable character, playing the only likable character of Avatar in the first film, to voicing in a shitty animated film. How great. And this other mute fella named Fingers. So then back to the park, Raccoon sends the two squirrels again to find food again, but they get separated by the rat gang as well. Then the pug comes in, and then if we find out the pug is also serving as a guard dog at the nut shop, then we find out from the criminal's point of view, they plan to rob a bank and replace the cash with nuts. So our two so-called lead characters see the only way to get nuts is to avoid Precious, the pug's name, with the dog whistle one of the crooks has. But then, as they're going through the mouse traps, like, they pretty much are eating cheese from the mouse traps, and we get a scene of them farting. Like, farting 3 fucking times. And yeah, if I ate too much cheese, yeah, he farted 3 fucking times. Like 5 minutes. But then when they're using the dog whistle, Fingers throws him out since he can hear it, and apparently he somehow has weak ear sight to it. It hurts his ears for some weird reason. We never know why. Then Surly crosses paths with Andy again, who then gets a whistle, and she'll dispose of it if Surly doesn't share the food from the store. So Surly is forced to accept, and then ends up befriending the pug after threatening her with the whistle. And it turns out the pug will get sent back to the pound if she doesn't dispose of him. And the pug's voice. I guess the pug's voiced by Maya Rudolph, who has on or off good roles. Like, was in the animated film Mitchell vs. Machines I liked. Was also voiced one of the Foot Clan in the shitty Mutant Mayhem film. Yeah, mostly her career's on or off when it comes to my favorite roles. So yeah, then So yeah, then after Andy finds a nut shop, goes back to inform the park of the plan, and although the animals have lack of faith in Surly like they should, because this guy fucked up their whole situation and didn't even and fucking laughed at them, they somehow go along with it. No, you guys fucking shouldn't. Or like, well, technically, no, okay, no, actually, like that's the only way they're gonna get food, so I can see why they go along with it. So Andy then gets help from three annoying as shit groundhogs that you basically want to stomp on when you meet them throughout the whole fucking film. And also this mole henchman who's literally named Mole because they can't come up with creative names. Just none of these characters are interesting or likable. The only ones that are even likable are the mute rats, because at least like the mute rat doesn't say stupid shit. So it's just a good reason he's mute, so he doesn't say unfunny jokes like every other character in the fucking movie does. Andy, I can deal with Andy, even though she's basically a simp for Surly for no reason. Keeps trying to defend him, even though he doesn't treat anybody nicely. Like, if there was a guy who was constantly treating me and several other friends of mine rudely, I would not be defending his ass in the first place. And I guess the pug, at least the pug's barely in the film. Like you're not apparently you're not supposed to. The writers don't want you to dislike this lead character, despite the fact that they don't try to make this guy sympathetic, and whenever they try to have anything sympathetic about this guy, it's half-assed, and he goes back to being a piece of crap anyway. And the writing parts that are interesting or complex, or they don't pan out well. Like like when you have a look at this movie, you have your lead protagonist is a raccoon, actually a likable raccoon, voiced by Bruce Willis. Yeah, his character started off as somewhat of a piece of crap at first, but eventually he actually had fucking character development. Okay, he gets character development as the film progresses. And when we first meet his character in Over the Hedge, he tries to steal food from Nick Nolte's character. But then that goes wrong, and that cart gets destroyed, and Nick Nolte threatens to kill him if he doesn't get all that supply. So, he finds all these other animals living in the park, and he pretty much manipulates them into pretty much helping collect food from the new neighborhood that's occupied their other side of the forest. Yeah, they steal a bunch of food, and then, like, along the way, like, he starts to grow more attached to these other animals as the film progresses. Yeah, I mean, it does the lie-revealed cliche, but here's the thing, it's not done overly lazy like in A Bug's Life did it right here, and it kind of made a little more sense here. Yeah, and you had better voice acting, and actually some more likable voice actors in Over the Hedge. More on that in another video. Yeah, and it even has the same concept, except it had good things about it. It's like the animals doing something rebellious for their needs, they get into trouble to try to solve the problem, but Over the Hedge actually has good animation, has better writers, and has a better plot. It's something and here, yeah, you know how the story's gonna go. The squirrels and the animals are gonna get the nuts, and they'll all celebrate. It's easily predictable. They're, unlike Over the Hedge, they're shitty animation. Doesn't even look like a portrayal of real life. Nothing is even realistic about this. It doesn't even look like the 50s because there's too many 2010s references. Yeah. Yeah, you're never really sure if you actually like anybody else in the movie, because everybody is unlikable and boring, or makes stupid fart and burp jokes, incredibly cliche, predictable, and stereotypical of every animated animal film in this universe. The plot is just drab, it goes nowhere, they want to steal nuts, so then fucking steal them, bitches! What's the big fucking deal? Yeah, the stupidest things are animals. They make it so hard to grab nuts, but in real life they could just grab nuts and anywhere in a city and then don't manage to get them anyway. Yeah, it's like as if, and somehow these nuts get, some of these nuts end up in the river at the end, and somehow they're not all soggy. Wouldn't they be all soggy by then? So technically they'd still be fucked in real life. And the bank heist subplot going on with the humans just is redundant. In fact, honestly, I don't know why I'd rather have an animated bank heist film instead of a film about a bunch of farting animals. Guys, yeah, you have three difference is that's especially important because you have three characters that are groundhogs, And most of the film, they just do nothing but fart and fucking burp. Every single one of their fucking scenes. That's literally their roles, to fart and burp in every scene they're in, or just make an obnoxious joke and treat people like garbage. Yeah, so the gang then meet up at the store, and their first attempt to rob a store fails. Then eventually, Surly then learns from Andy that Raccoon, predictably, wants to double-cross Surly, and then Surly argues and leaves. Then back at the park, then Raccoon's true colors get revealed because this movie wants us to see him as the bad guy. And wants us to see the asshole squirrel Surly as the good guy we're supposed to root for, even though he does nothing likable at all, or nothing even remotely heroic. And when he does finally somewhat become nice, it's just done fucking lazy. Apparently, from what I hear, Raccoon is apparently a con artist that wants to prevent the animals from having any food so his leadership can be kept, and only Mole knows about this. So he then sends out Mole to sabotage the next attempt at robbing his store, to flood the tunnels, to drown the bruisers that are digging in there. Like, good. Honestly, kill these 3 fucking morons. These 3 are fucking annoying. Kill them. You dispose of those guys. But then Surly saves them anyway, despite the fact they don't treat him nicely either. So I don't know why he would bother saving them. Then the pug catches Mole and reveals Raccoon's intentions. So then he tries to go warn the others, but because they don't like him, they don't believe him. And then later, like, they decide to part ways, and literally, like, and when, like, Andy tries to have Buddy say if he saw anything, of course, then Surly insults him, and then he finally fucking leaves Surly. Good. Don't be friends with Surly. I don't know why you're friends with this guy in the fucking first place. Should have left this guy from the beginning. Should have never been friends with him to begin with. And one of the bruisers even tries to call him out on this, and even tries to beat the crap out of him for it. Like, but Andy stops that one from trying to do it. Like, no. Let this one beat the shit out of him, please. No. Actually, let this groundhog beat the shit out of this asshole protagonist. I would have allowed that to happen. I would have allowed that. Because this guy never treated any of you guys with respect. This guy's never cared about you guys. This guy laughed at you losing all your food. This guy tried to betray your heist multiple times, tried to steal from you guys multiple times. Why are you trying to stop him from getting beat up? Don't get it. It's like, but then, of course, like, predictably, Fraser's character comes back and reunites with them. Then Surly gets captured by the criminals, and honestly, you're kind of hoping the criminals will kill him as well. But though, of course, apparently, one of the criminals' girlfriend is upset to find out that they're doing crimes, and so she leaves, but also sets our protagonist free, but then of course our protagonist gets captured again, and this time by the same rats we saw in the beginning of the film, and apparently they're working for Raccoon for some weird reason. We never know why. It's never explained why. We never see them with Raccoon at the park in the first place, so it makes no sense. And then Raccoon reveals his plan involves that he's going to hurt his friends that are not even his friends, so Surly escapes, heads down to the basement to go save them, then tells Grace to get the team to apparently distract the criminals long enough for his friends to escape with the food. So the animals then meet up with Raccoon and lies about Surly committing treachery, even though technically speaking, Surly's, to be fair, that's not really a lie, because he probably was going to betray your asses anyway. Yeah, so like the paradox in a nut job is, despite the main focus being a heist, something like, I'd rather this be an adult animated feature and be about the heist and the criminals in the first place, not these shitty animals. Let's make it a kid's movie about a bunch of annoying animals and make unfunny jokes. Just like, this protagonist guy is so unlikable. And what's worse, like, his voice actor is the same guy who voiced Batman in the Lego movies, and then later voiced in one of the best Netflix shows, BoJack Horseman, which actually really perfectly summarizes everything wrong with Hollywood today. Yeah, like, and get this, guys, like, those roles came right after this movie, but yeah, but even to be fair, like, his voice actor, Will Arnett, also had some shitty career choices. Like, he also did the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles movies with the ugliest fuck steroided up Shreks that are supposed to be the Turtles. Yeah, did those shitty movies. else, like, he also did G-Force. That was a shitty movie. He did that. He was in that shitty Jonah Hex film. Yeah, he's had a few good career choices, but he's had a lot of shitty ones. And honestly, like, I'm surprised he doesn't get a better agent. The surprise about that. Like, and when it's, yeah, like, and when it's, like, yeah, like, this protagonist guy is very unlikable. You want to punch him. You want to stomp on him. Anytime you see this guy, like, and when his sidekick does save him, guess what? Guess what? The protagonist repays him by literally pushing him away or yelling in his face. Even, like, being constantly choked or yelled at and gets hurt for no reason. Most of the other characters are also very unlikable. And you don't like any of them. You don't root for any of them. But when it comes to, like, Brendan Fraser's character, apparently a lot of people hated this guy as much as Surly, but to be honest, this is the only of the comedic characters that try to be funny. This is the only guy that really gets a laugh out of me at all. Probably the only comic relief I could tolerate in the whole film. Like, and to be honest, guys, I feel bad for Brendan in that era, because back then, like, Brendan couldn't get any epics due to his injuries, and the guy's honestly had a shitty life back then, and plus Hollywood basically stabbed him in the back after he revealed he got assaulted, which is another reason why I don't like Hollywood in today's world. But yeah, like, this guy's had a tragic life. That's why you, like, saw him in some really bad films like Furry Vengeance, because those were the only stuff he could get, because Hollywood didn't want to work with him over petty reasons. And to be fair, even he regrets making Furry Vengeance. Even he hates that film at all. That's one film he wishes he never starred in. Like, honestly, like, but yeah, honestly, I think his character is the only funny character in the whole film. And then he got also, yeah, the other squirrel, Katherine Heigl's character, was basically just too much of a softie and a simp towards an asshole protagonist. And then you have Raccoon just randomly turning into the villain for no reason. It's just no reason, just so that we can root for this so-called protagonist that isn't worth rooting for. This entire flick is just disjointed, with one scene bleed to the next. There's no motivation, or shitty jokes, a villain that's not well written, and no reason to be a villain. And the main character, you try to give him even a redemption, and it's done shittily wrong. And, like, when the finale happens, even you know exactly how it's going to play out. Because, like, when Raccoon lies about Surly, he locks him in the van. Then, of course, Surly and Grayson, they use the pigeons to catch up and save the others. They defeat Raccoon's pet Cardinal. Then the robbers find out King double-crossed him by filling up the truck with nuts, because that was obviously going to happen. Then Grayson and Surly open a door, release the friends. Then Raccoon appears, tries to get the others to throw Surly off, and you're like, good. Good, let Liam Neeson's character win. Let him die. But no, Mole ruins everything by redeeming, for some weird reason, and reveals that Raccoon is a true traitor, even though, to be fair, he's not really one. And the animals turn on him. Then the animals evacuate the truck. And the getaway cars head down a bridge, and police are waiting to detain the criminals. Then King of Figures tries to use a dynamite to blow the police out. But then the truck hangs over the bridge. Surly gets Andy off the truck, and the dynamite goes off inside the truck. And so that falls into the river for some weird reason. And then he falls down into it himself. But then Surly makes it to a log. And Raccoon's revealed to have somehow survived the explosion. And somehow King's also revealed to have survived the explosion. For some weird reason. Then Raccoon tries to kill Surly. But the nuts there somehow should be soggy because they're in the river. But though they're apparently not. Make weight that literally begins to break the log. So the animals try to rescue them. But Raccoon's not going to give up. Because, like, yeah. Because he wants to kill Surly like we're all hoping he will. Like, you're kind of cheering this guy to kill him. It's like, don't try to save this guy. This guy was never nice to any of you. I don't know why you would be saving him. But Surly decides to somehow be selfless to protect his friends and sacrifices himself to let go of the log, and they go over the waterfall, and somehow they don't die from that, because I'll get to that later for some weird reason. And killing Raccoon and Surly apparently, good. Good. If this was the end of the movie, I'd be fine with it. Just let the movie end there. But the animals then mourn him, thinking they now saw the good side of them. Then the somehow not soggy food makes its way to the park that touched the water. The animals are gathering joy because they think their food troubles are over, even though in real life this nuts would be all ruined if they go in the water. Kingdom gets arrested. Pathetically. Somehow Andy and Buddy are still mourning over Surly, even though they should not be. Then, of course, the pug comes back, then finds out what happened to her friend that kept threatening her with a whistle, and finds Surly's apparent dead body near the river. How the hell did his dead body get back to the park if he went over a fucking waterfall? I don't know. It's never explained how he gets back to the fucking park, even though he shouldn't. The bottom of that waterfall looks like it's far fucking away. Ugh. Then Buddy's apparently finds his best friend gone, and I think there's an international cut where he says best friend, but the cut my area has doesn't have him say anything at all. And then they try to make this scene all sad, but even though this guy was a piece of shit throughout the entire movie, you're fucking happy. And he wants to cry over this. But you know he's gonna come fucking back. Because it's the Disney death, which is one of the worst cliches in history. Another one of the worst cliches besides Liar Revealed. Because guess what, guys? Apparently, even though he went over a fucking waterfall in the log, and the log clearly looked like it was the last thing to fall down, so shouldn't the log have crushed him anyway? But apparently it didn't. It's because he wakes up and apparently was unconscious from falling from a high-ass fucking waterfall, hugs Buddy, and the pug licks Surly's face, and then goes back to Lana. And apparently, Andy finds Surly's alright, embraces them, and tries to get him to come to the other animals so they can explain his heroism, but Surly decides the other animals were the heroes, which they really were more than him and all. And so he refuses. And besides, even if he went and explained them, they probably wouldn't believe your ass anyway. They'd probably be like, what? We don't care if you saved us. Get the fuck out of here. They'd probably be like that. They probably wouldn't give a fuck about what you did. So maybe that makes sense why he wouldn't. Because I don't think they'd give a shit. But he gains a willingness to work with others. That's predictable. He learned his so-called lesson. To work with others. Yeah, why was this predictable to happen? And then he goes back in the city to do another caper. And then the crowds have the fucking Gangnam Style dance. Because for some weird reason, they just wanted Market Gangnam Style, but Market Gangnam Style was long fucking over by the time this movie released. So, yeah. That's how the finale goes. It ends with them doing the fucking Gangnam Style dance. I hate that fucking song. It was everywhere in 2012. Everywhere I went on the radio. It was all over the fucking world back then. Yeah, the fact an animated film that's supposed to be set in the 1950s uses Gangnam Style in their credits and releases it in 2014's, even though Gangnam Style has nothing to do with the plot of the film, the song was no longer popular by the time this released. The only thing that's funny about it is that apparently on Reddit, someone mentioned that they went to go see 12 Years a Slave, and apparently the theater next to them was playing The Nut Job, and by the time the Gangnam Style credits were happening, I think it got to one of the whipping scenes at 12 Years a Slave, and it ruined the whole experience for them. Because that song was playing playing right next to them, and literally the whipping scene was happening. Or one of the whipping scenes was happening by the time these credits were happening. Yeah, just imagine that happening to you. Just imagine that. I guess that theater has shitty walls. If they can't make good enough walls to block out other sounds, then they're a shitty built theater. That being said, guys, would I have any good qualities? Well, like, Brendan Fraser's the only attempted comedy. His character's the only attempted comedy that actually is at least enjoyable. Because at least his character's humor wasn't all fart and burp like every other fucking character in this movie was. Especially the groundhogs that you want to just curb stomp into the ground like American History X. Hell, that'd be a better ending. Just have Edward Norton appear and curb stomp every fucking character in this movie. That would be a better ending. If he showed up and curb stomped everybody in the ground. And the other good quality I had was Raccoon being the villain. And honestly, when this guy's trying to kill Surly, you're actually kind of rooting for this guy to kill him. Like, good, yeah, good. Let this guy kill the so-called lead character. Kill him. Let it happen. Because Surly's more of a villain than Raccoon really was. And since it's called The Nut Job, other than those few good qualities, because, ironically, this movie's called The Nut Job, right? So guess what? This movie can blow my dick. Since it's called The Nut Job. So in the end, guys, a nut job is horseshit, predictable horseshit that should never be watched by anybody, especially your own kids of all things. Well, I don't think many even watched it, so that's good. Even though it made 120 million, nobody remembers it anymore. Anyways, guys, that's it for my epic rant on The Nut Job. You wondering how I'm going to rank The Nut Job? Here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, unless you're forced by your kid to watch Pure Cancer, then you can avoid this horseshit of an animated feature and stick with Over the Hedge instead. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank The Nut Job, I'm going to give The Nut Job a 1 out of 10. Here we go, guys. That's it for my epic rant on The Nut Job, but sadly, that ain't over yet because now I gotta go suffer through the fucking sequel. Yeah, because get this, guys, they made a sequel. They made a fucking sequel that went to theaters. I don't know why they did. I don't know how it got a sequel. And once again, I don't know how this got $120 million. I really don't. I don't get the fucking world today. Oh, and apparently somehow I think this was gonna get a live fucking show like Ice Age Mammoth Adventure did. They made a live show of Ice Age, like those Disney on Ice shows. It was gonna get a show like that. Not on ice, on stage. I don't think that's happened. No, it actually did. I've seen photos of that live show, but I don't think it even airs anymore. I don't think it happened for much long. Because no one would go watch it. With Ice Age live, yeah, the Ice Age has a fan base, so of course people would watch that. Some people would. Nut Job has no fan base. So that was even a stupider idea. Like, I remember that back in 2016. But yeah, until then, guys, that'll be it for this epic rant on the first film. Thank y'all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.